Hi, everyone's concept of beauty is different. What is beautiful for some is ugly for others. This applies not only to appearance and other aspects of life, but also to video games. Probably, today every person close to the gaming industry has his own pool of the most beautiful games. In this video, I will present my version, where I will talk about the most realistic story games, and I'll start with Death Stranding. The local engine proved to be excellent back in Horizon Zero Dawn. However, there the developers tried to emphasize the beauty of the world with the help of artistic elements. So it turned out spectacular, but not too natural. But in the case of Death Stranding, the authors emphasized more realism. They squeezed the maximum out of the engine when working on an open world with impressive landscapes. In addition, the creators have done a decent job of transferring the appearance of celebrities using 3D scanning. Impressive cinematic cutscenes have become the final touch to the treasury of realism of the game. During them, the game almost completely turns into a movie. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor. The adventure series Star Wars Jedi is a Metroidvania and offers to move between planets, performing various missions on each of them. Thus, in order to find all the secrets, you will have to repeatedly return to already visited planets. The games are very beautiful, and the local landscapes and views of the planets are literally breathtaking. It is immediately clear that a huge amount of attention is paid to the setting, details, and animation. Call of Duty World at War II. Call of Duty games have been constantly accused of using the same engine over the years. But at the same time, programmers and designers each time manage to implement a modern picture in each new release of the franchise. In World at War II, they somehow managed to surpass themselves. On ultra-graphic settings, the shooter looks simply amazing, and the directing and staging of missions evokes the association with an expensive, not less famous, Hollywood movie. Kingdom Come Deliverance. When creating this game, the developers have made realism the main reference point in all directions. They chose to portray 15th century Bohemia in their game, with all that it entails: complex fencing-based combat, medieval culture, and the struggles of survival as a simple peasant who becomes a soldier. To emphasize the chosen entourage, the developers have tried to provide the game with realistic graphics. Along the way, the developers encountered a bunch of technical problems, but in general they coped with the task. At the moment, their game has implemented the most believable Middle Ages among all interactive entertainment. Control. This action-adventure can be judged visually by two criteria: the overall impression of the design and the manufacturability of the picture. The first is beyond praise. The developers managed to turn faceless offices and corridors into a real work of art, all thanks to competent work with light, color, and geometry. The second one is also impressive, but not everyone will be able to enjoy the graphics of the game at maximum settings. To play with activated RTX, you need powerful video card. Detroit Become Human. Quantic Dream has been making incredibly beautiful interactive movie games for a long time, but it's in Detroit that you can see the peak of their skill. In some moments, the local characters look like real people. You get the impression that you are watching one of the latest films in the science fiction genre. At the same time, the developers also skillfully mask the flaws of the picture with a blurry background and various filters. This is barely noticeable and rather benefited the graphics, rather than worsen the perception of the picture. Watch Dogs. The game has been out for a long time, but PC users are not sitting still and are still trying to create various mods for the game. And with these mods, the game, in terms of graphics, can beat the newest part, all thanks to the already excellent picture, and especially in the gloomy atmosphere of rainy Chicago. Hitman 3. If we briefly describe the next adventures of a bald agent with numbers on the back of his head, then it turned out not just a worthy continuation in the spirit of the two previous parts, but perhaps the best game of the trilogy. With the level design brought to the ideal, an interesting story, and an even greater number of various gadgets. God of War and God of War Ragnarok. The adventures of Kratos and the latest God of War games have taken on a more adult level. Now this is not just a slaughter with a bunch of opponents, but a touching story about the relationship between father and son. Yes, the family drama for games is not new, but it is here that it is served in such a way that you are imbued with it to the core. But the games turned out to be excellent not only in terms of plot and gameplay, but also due to beautiful graphics. The creators managed to achieve such a realistic picture that what is happening in the game is difficult to distinguish from some science fiction movie. Resident Evil Village. The 8th part of the series was one of the most anticipated projects of 2021. This is not surprising, because over the past few years, the developers at Capcom have proven that they can still provide an unforgettable horror experience. The game got into this list mainly due to high-quality character models and good detailing of the environment. Compared to the 7th part, which takes place mainly in a closed space, there are more walks in open areas, and the game engine did an excellent job. It is also worth noting that the game is excellently optimized, so for maximum settings it does not require the purchase of the most expensive hardware. Uncharted 4. The former exclusive for the PlayStation last year finally appeared on the PC, which is good news. All games in this series are an adventure shooter that has a fairly rich and well-developed world. The 4th part in terms of graphics came out almost perfect. The high resolution of the textures shows that the emphasis was on the graphics, and it was the right decision. The atmosphere is well conveyed by the style of the image, elaborated shadows and light. The Last of Us 2. Many call the 2nd part the most beautiful game of the generation, and it's hard to disagree with that. Animators, art artists, level designers and composers did their job perfectly, taking care of every detail. They created realistic locations, and Seattle was completely transferred to the game with the utmost accuracy. Character models were thought out taking into account the type of their activity. The facial expressions of the characters always correspond to the situation, and the animations exactly repeat human movements. Far Cry 6. Who was expecting revelations from Far Cry 6? I think that there were few such naive people. This is exactly the same game as the previous ones, only in a different setting. From the visual side, we still have the same engine, but the artists from Ubisoft can only be applauded. They know how to create beautiful and unusual places. The fictional country Yara is no exception. Local sunsets, rich fauna and realistic weather effects are undeniably pleasing to the eye. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The final part of the updated trilogy will impress not only with new adventures, but also with excellent graphics and beautiful views of the jungles of South America. Here we have to explore the jungle and underwater places, inspire fear in opponents, descend into dark and creepy tombs, inside which there are many deadly traps, as well as find a mysterious city and much more. Demon's Souls. The acclaimed dark fantasy role-playing game has finally received a worthy remake, in which, as expected, the main emphasis was placed precisely on the graphics. It would be blasphemy to recycle the rest of the game elements from scratch. But only one picture led the fans of the series to delight. The remake looks so cool that sometimes it makes you believe what is happening. Wandering through dungeons and deserted wastelands, battles with the most incredible opponents, and everything else fits perfectly into the modern format. So much so that you can forget about the approaching danger while looking at the surroundings. The Order 1886. If you have a PlayStation 4 lying around, you should definitely pay attention to this game. This dark action game in steampunk style does not offer any original mechanics, but it allows you to admire the beautiful graphics to your heart's content. Through the efforts of the developers, a real interactive movie has turned out. Here you won't immediately notice when a long interactive movie smoothly flows into the gameplay. Mafia Definitive Edition, a remake of one of the most significant games of the early 2000s. The original Mafia was a unique game for its time. Initially conceived as a driving simulator in the criminal world of the driver level, it eventually grew into something more. The developers of the remake were faced with the task of not spoiling the original and transferring it to the new engine with high quality. Well, the developers coped with this task and also expanded the plot, added action, threw out boring episodes, and added modern graphics. Returnal. This game came at a good time when PlayStation 5 had too few exclusives. Because of this, the shooter immediately became the center of attention both among the press and among the players. If the game were more forgiving towards the players, it would hit even more jackpot. The frantic pace of the game simply did not allow you to enjoy the local beauties and take a breath. And there is something to look at here. The local landscapes of the mysterious planet look majestic, and raindrops realistically flow down the surfaces and armor of the main character. Metro Exodus. When working on the Metro series, Ukrainian developers have always focused on graphics and believable environments. But it was in Exodus that they were able to reach a fundamentally new level of quality. Each location here turned out to be unique and realistic, making it easier to feel the post-apocalyptic surroundings. In settlements, individual houses, and even ruins, there are details of life: kitchen utensils. All these environmental objects are recreated in accordance with the chosen era, which makes the picture even more attractive and natural. Red Dead Redemption 2. If you choose the most realistic game, it would be a real blasphemy to pass by the creations of Rockstar. This game surprises from the first minutes. The Wild West is here, as if torn out of the pages of history and placed in a digital environment. Each location corresponds to the chosen entourage and era, and the quality of individual graphic aspects cannot be faulted with all desire. Coupled with an incredible amount of handcrafted animations and details, provide the game with the status of one of the most realistic. And most importantly, cool graphics are just one of the many pluses. One of the best games of recent years pleases with a variety of features and a cool storyline, and the universe can be explored for weeks. Elden Ring. The newest game from Software, developers of Demon's Souls, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne. There are familiar boss fights and a gloomy world. In these aspects of the studio there is no equal. The developers have created a huge open world with the ability to move between locations on horseback, interesting combat mechanics, and numerous dangerous opponents. Like the Souls series, Elden Ring offers a rich selection of weapons and spells, as well as the ability to play the game in co-op with friends. Outriders, cooperative first-person shooter in a sci-fi setting from the creators of Bulletstorm. Players take on the role of pathfinders who travel from a human colony deep into a mysterious planet in search of a mysterious signal. Players will have to explore the planet and fight various monsters in co-op up to 3 people. Guardians of the Galaxy, a third-person story-driven game that tells the story of the Guardians of the Galaxy superhero team. The game has nothing to do with Marvel films and offers a completely new look at familiar characters. Events will unfold a few years after a large-scale galactic war. The entire universe is gradually coming to its senses, and the Guardians are trying to earn money as heroes for hire. During the execution of one of the contracts, something happens, after which events begin that can lead to a global catastrophe. From her, the Guardians will need to save the galaxy. A Plague Tale Requiem, continuation of the adventure game in the setting of medieval Europe. Here we again have to help the girl and her brother survive in a world torn apart by epidemics, nightmares, and wars. Familiar characters will once again have to fight for survival in a dark and cruel world. However, now the boy knows how to control a flock of rats. The Ascent, isometric RPG in cyberpunk style. The game will tell about a world where, after the collapse of a large megacorporation, criminals and small companies divided influence over it, and the main character must find out the cause of the collapse of the once great company created on Unreal Engine 4. The game looks quite realistic, which gives it a dark atmosphere, the glow of neon, and a lot of augmentations with which you can strengthen the character. The game will be dynamic, will be able to boast of destructibility and a stylish picture. In addition, the game can be played in co-op with up to 4 people, and this will surely be a great opportunity to gather friends for spending time together. Kina Bridge of Spirits, a bright action-adventure where we will play the role of a young sorceress Kina, who knows how to manage a group of tiny spirits saved by her. These spirits help the girl solve puzzles and fight. The main character will have to uncover the secret of an abandoned village and revive its former glory. Although the game is designed in a cartoonish style, the creators managed to squeeze all the juice out of Unreal Engine 4. And the first thing that attracts attention is the charming and at the same time magnificent graphic design and the world full of details. And its visual effects have fascinated many since the announcement. Dying Light 2. Here we again have to fight the horde of the undead, and even stronger enemies will be waiting for us under the cover of night. One of the main innovations of the second part was the concept of the plot. This time we will have no small influence on the course of history. There will be more freedom of choice in missions, and different answers and dialogues will affect the gameplay. The world map has become twice as large as all the locations from the first game combined. The action will unfold in one city, but the city itself is very diverse. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2, continuation of a series of games about a lone sniper who needs to destroy targets at the longest distances. In the new part, we will play the role of a hired sniper, track and eliminate targets on large-scale sandbox maps, using a large selection of equipment. As you progress, you will need to visit at least 5 giant open locations and complete more than 20 contracts with side missions of varying difficulty. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The final part of the updated trilogy about Lara Croft will impress not only with the new adventures of the main character, but also with excellent graphics and beautiful views of the South American jungle. Lara embarks on a new journey. In the distant and lost jungle, there are many references to Mayan culture and predictions. Traps lurk around every corner, and marauders want to plunder ancient tombs. The gamer will not only have to explore every corner of the jungle, but also learn how to disguise himself, attack and solve puzzles to find out the main secret of the ancient civilization. And Lara's main bet is made on a bow and arrow, which implies a more or less secretive approach to destroying opponents. Doom Eternal, the long-awaited sequel to the 2016 reboot of the legendary Doom series. The game is an incredibly fast-paced, meaty cut that makes 2016's Doom feel like a slow game. Great graphics, nostalgic demon design. The plot complements the Doom universe with full-fledged lore and history. Musical accompaniment deserves special mention, which creates an atmosphere of pathos and complete madness. Overall, this is the best sequel you could expect. In the era of all sorts of battle royales, ID Software reminded us what a shooter should be like, polishing everything that players liked in the 2016 reboot, and adding a few innovations that made the gameplay more diverse. That's all. Thank you for watching. The Image Game channel was with you. Have a good day.